Blue Book Atomic Habits, Chapter 1 Summary. Chapter 1 of Atomic Habits introduces the central idea of the book. Small habits can create huge changes in life over time. The author, James Clear, explains that success does not usually come from big, sudden transformations. Instead, it comes from tiny improvements repeated consistently every day. The chapter focuses on how habits work, why small improvements matter, and how gradual changes can lead to extraordinary results. Below is a detailed explanation of the main ideas from Chapter 1. 1. The power of tiny changes. The chapter begins with the concept of atomic habits. The word atomic means something very small but extremely powerful. In the context of habits, atomic habits are tiny behaviors that are repeated regularly and eventually produce big results. Many people try to change their lives through large and dramatic actions. For example, starting a strict diet, exercising intensely every day, completely changing their routine overnight. However, these big changes are often difficult to maintain. After a short time, people return to their old habits. The author explains that small changes are much easier to maintain. When repeated daily, these small actions accumulate and create significant long-term improvements. For example, reading 10 pages a day can lead to finishing many books in a year. Exercising for a few minutes daily improves health over time. Saving a small amount of money regularly builds wealth gradually. The key message is that small improvements become powerful when they are repeated consistently. 2. The idea of 1% improvement. One of the most important ideas in Chapter 1 is the concept of 1% improvement. The author explains that improving by just 1% each day may seem insignificant at first. However, when this improvement continues over a long period, the results become extraordinary. Small gains compound over time, just like interest in a bank account. For example, if a person becomes 1% better every day for 1 year, the improvement becomes enormous by the end of the year. On the other hand, if someone becomes 1% worse every day, small negative habits can gradually lead to serious problems. This concept shows that daily actions shape our future. 3 habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. The author compares habits to compound interest. Just as money grows slowly through interest, habits grow slowly through repeated actions. At first, the results may seem invisible. However, after months or years, the accumulated effects become obvious. For example, daily exercise slowly improves strength and health. Daily learning increases knowledge and skills. Daily practice leads to mastery. Similarly, negative habits also accumulate. Eating unhealthy food daily damages health over time. Procrastinating regularly reduces productivity. Poor sleep habits reduce mental performance. The chapter emphasizes that habits work silently in the background, gradually shaping our lives. 4. Why big goals often fail. Many people focus on goals when trying to improve their lives. Examples include losing weight, getting a promotion, starting a business, learning a language. However, the author explains that focusing only on goals can be misleading. There are 3 major problems with goal-focused thinking. 1. Winners and losers often have the same goals. In competitions, both the winner and the loser usually have the same goal. For example, all athletes want to win a race, but only one person succeeds. The difference between them is not the goal, but the system they follow. 2. Achieving a goal creates only temporary change. When people achieve a goal, they often relax and return to their old habits. For example, someone who loses weight through strict dieting may regain the weight if their daily habits do not change. Lasting success comes from changing habits, not just achieving goals. 3. Goals restrict long-term happiness. If happiness depends only on achieving a goal, people may feel unhappy until the goal is reached. Instead, the author suggests enjoying the process of improvement, not just the final result. 5. The importance of systems. Instead of focusing only on goals, the author recommends focusing on systems. A system is the set of habits and processes that lead to results. For example, goal: write a book. System: writing a few pages every day. Goal: become fit. System: exercising regularly and eating healthy food. Goal: learn English. System: practicing reading, writing, and speaking daily. Systems focus on daily actions, while goals focus on outcomes. The author believes that good systems naturally produce good results. 6. Why progress is often invisible. One reason people give up on good habits is that results are not immediately visible. For example, exercising for a few days may not show noticeable fitness improvement. Studying for a few hours may not produce immediate mastery. Saving money for a short time may not seem significant. Because the results appear slowly, people may feel discouraged and stop their efforts. However, the author explains that progress often happens below the surface, similar to ice melting. 7. The ice cube example. To explain hidden progress, the author uses the example of an ice cube. Imagine an ice cube sitting in a room where the temperature is slowly increasing. At 25 degrees F, nothing happens. At 26 degrees F, nothing happens. At 27 degrees F, nothing happens. At 31 degrees F, the ice still remains solid. But when the temperature reaches 32 degrees F, the ice suddenly begins to melt. The change appears sudden, but it is actually the result of all the previous temperature increases. Similarly, habits produce results after a long period of small improvements. People often quit just before reaching the breakthrough point. 8. The plateau of latent potential. The author describes the early stage of habit formation as the plateau of latent potential. During this stage, people work hard but see very little visible progress. This period can be frustrating, and many people give up. However, if they continue their habits consistently, results eventually appear. The lesson is that success requires patience and persistence. Small actions may seem insignificant today, but they are building future success. 9. Positive habits versus negative habits. The chapter also explains that habits work in both directions. Positive habits improve life gradually, while negative habits slowly create problems. Examples of positive habits: reading daily, exercising regularly, learning new skills, saving money. Examples of negative habits: smoking, eating unhealthy food frequently, procrastinating, sleeping too little. The important point is that habits rarely show their consequences immediately. Over time, however, they strongly shape our lives. 10. The true nature of success. One of the most powerful ideas in Chapter 1 is that success is not a single event. People often believe success happens suddenly, such as winning a competition, becoming wealthy, achieving fame. But the author explains that these outcomes are usually the result of years of small improvements and consistent habits. Every successful person builds routines that gradually lead to success. 11. Small habits build identity. Although this idea is explored more deeply in later chapters, the first chapter introduces the concept that habits shape who we become. Every action we repeat strengthens a particular identity. For example, writing regularly builds the identity of a writer. Exercising regularly builds the identity of a healthy person. Studying regularly builds the identity of a learner. Over time, habits influence how we see ourselves and how others see us. 12 Key Lessons from Chapter 1. The major lessons from Chapter 1 include: 1. Tiny improvements can produce extraordinary results over time. 2. Habits act like compound interest for self-improvement. 3. Improving by 1% each day leads to significant long-term progress. 4. Negative habits also accumulate and create problems. 5. Goals alone are not enough. Systems are more important. 6. Results of habits often appear slowly and may be invisible at first. 7. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. 8. Small actions repeated daily shape our future. 9. Success is the result of long-term habits, not sudden change. Patience and persistence are essential for habit formation. Conclusion. Chapter 1 of Atomic Habits introduces the powerful idea that small habits create big transformations. Instead of trying to change everything at once, the author encourages readers to focus on tiny improvements and consistent daily actions. By improving just a little every day, people can gradually build better skills, better health, and better lives. The chapter sets the foundation for the rest of the book by explaining that success is not the result of one big moment, but the outcome of many small habits repeated over time.